Hi, welcome to the January issue of the Health Tech Innovation Update. Today we're going to talk about three interesting health tech innovations and a controversy associated with one of them. Hi, welcome back to the channel. I hope everybody is doing well, is happy and healthy, and is interested in what we have to talk about. So before we dive in, I have no conflicts of interest. I'm not promoting anything. I have no affiliation or association with any of the companies that we're going to talk about or the research effort. I am not being paid for doing this video. I'm doing this out of the goodness of my heart. So you're welcome. And with that, let's dive in. And so the first innovation we're going to talk about is a photoacoustic patch for sensing hemoglobin and core temperature that researchers at UC San Diego have developed. And what's so cool about it is that they use what is called a vertical cavity surface emitting laser, which penetrates much deeper than the lasers that you will normally find on smartwatches and other medical devices. It penetrates more than 2 centimeters deep down into the skin. And the way this patch works is that the pulsating laser excites hemoglobin, which causes the hemoglobin to radiate acoustic waves, which are picked up by the transducers embedded in the patch. So a very, very cool thing. Now, most of us obviously don't need to monitor hemoglobin on a regular basis, but nevertheless, having the ability to be able to do that non-invasively and quickly can be very, very useful, as either too low or too high hemoglobin levels can be associated with serious medical conditions, including things like inflammation and cancer. So having something that can do that would certainly be very useful. Also, measuring core temperature is actually reasonably tricky. Most wearable devices don't do that. All they can measure is sort of skin temperature because, once again, they simply don't have the technology to penetrate deep enough to measure core temperature. And finally, and this is what I actually find most exciting about this technology can be extended to use for measurement of other biomarkers, whether it's, for instance, blood glucose or lactic acids or a number of other things, protein. All that would need to happen is that one would need to use lasers that operate on different frequencies. And so I think, as we all appreciate, the road from an academic lab to a commercial product is not an easy one. And lots of promising innovations don't make it through. I certainly hope that this one does, because as some of you who've watched my other videos know, I'm a big fan of patches. And I'm certainly a very big fan of patches that can help us measure things that we don't currently measure, such as, for instance, hemoglobin, such as core temperature, such as proteins, such as blood glucose. And so I think having this product move forward would be very useful. Now, for those of you who'd like to know more about this effort, I will leave a link to the paper in which it is described down in the description below. Next is Rockley Photonics. As some of you who watched my non-invasive continuous glucose monitoring video, which if you haven't watched, you should obviously watch, may recognize is one of the companies that we talked about in that video. They've come out with their first product, or at least they showcased it at the Consumer Electronics Show in January. It's called the BioPTX band. And no, it doesn't measure blood pressure yet. It doesn't measure blood glucose yet. But I decided to include it because I think the exciting thing about that is that hopefully it means that they now have a chip that is valid commercially that they can move forward with, and that they will be able to focus on things such as blood pressure and glucose next. And the reason that I think that is because this BioPTX band uses a chip that has infrared sensors at 36 different wavelengths, as well as traditional PPG sensors, the red, green, and infrared. And so hopefully they're making progress. They haven't announced yet what it's going to cost and when it's actually going to be available. But, once again, hopefully a good positive sign that they're moving forward and they will be moving on to more interesting things going forward. And so the third thing, and actually a product, is UScan by Withings. And what they have announced is a urine analyzer for home use. And it's comprised of two parts. The reader, which is sort of a round pebble-shaped device that is about 90 millimeters in diameter that you stick into your toilet bowl, as per the pictures. And inside it is a cartridge called the reader, which lasts about 3 months, and also a battery, which also lasts 3 months. And yeah, I know, having to sort of take something out of the toilet bowl and replace the cartridge and the battery every 3 months is an interesting proposition, but nonetheless, they are using optical technology inside the pebble, the reader, to analyze your urine, and then they're transmitting it from it either via Bluetooth or Wi-Fi to their app. They currently have announced 2 cartridges. One is for hormonal cycle monitoring, and the other one is for hydration and nutrition. The thing is not cheap. To buy the starter kit, which is the reader and 1 cartridge, is 500 euros or $500. And thereafter, you're going to have the choice of either subscribing to automatic refills for $30 a month, which comes out to $360 a year, or you can just buy them sort of standalone cartridges and one-offs. It's going to be available in Q2 in 2023 in Europe. Not clear when it's going to be available in the US. Now, being able to analyze your urine at home sort of right away could potentially be quite useful for people, but it's also has raised a number of concerns and hackles related to privacy. Because apparently what happens is that the data is transmitted from the Pebble to the phone app and then to Withings database on a Withings server somewhere. And in particular, with view to sort of the crazy anti-abortion laws in some of the states here in the US, people have obviously raised the issue that, law enforcement authorities in those states could go after this data to try to track down people who were pregnant but had abortions and cause all kinds of legal issues. Now, more broadly, even if you're not pregnant, even if you're not at risk for this kind of harassment and legal implications, I still don't understand why Withings is doing what they're doing here. Because as far as I'm concerned, the data should go from the Pebble to the user's phone and quite frankly stay there. I really don't understand why it needs to go to any data centers for a variety of different privacy reasons. And, there is simply no need to turn something like this to sort of a monitoring device, of surveillance device of any kind, as people are going to think about it. And I don't really know what Withings is thinking about doing with this data, if it's just going to sit there, or if they want to use it to sort of improve their algorithms, or if they are thinking about aggregating and commercializing this data, sort of a surveillance capitalist kind of a thing. I really don't know, and I don't want to speculate it, but in either event, it just doesn't strike me as right that you charge people this much money for a device, and then Withings also gets the data. At $500 plus, and in fact at $900 a year for the first year and close to $400 for subsequent years, I would like to think that the owner of the data is going to be the user and not Withings. So, As far as I'm concerned, there are actually 4 things wrong with this product that need to be fixed, interesting and potentially useful as it is. The first one is, of course, the price. It's way too expensive. The second one is sort of this whole privacy issue and data ownership issue. The third one is the replacement of the batteries and the cartridge is a little unappealing. As a minimum, you need to get yourself a pair of gloves to do that, right? And finally, it's not clear to me what's going to happen if multiple people use the toilet, which is, of course, what normally happens in most families. How is that going to be handled? So anyway, I look at it, I think it's an interesting technology and an interesting idea, but as far as I'm concerned, it's not ready for prime time and it's not a buy at this point in time. So there we have it, 3 interesting ideas. None of them are ready for prime time, but I think they're very interesting nonetheless. As far as the patch is concerned, I certainly hope it moves forward because I think it's an interesting technology, it's an interesting use case, and I certainly hope it gets commercialized both for hemoglobin as well as for other biomarkers. The other 2, I think they need work. The Rocklet device doesn't do anything that other devices that are on the market right now don't do. I think they will have a competitive advantage and offer something new and innovative when they move on to blood glucose and when they move on to blood pressure and lactate and alcohol and things like this, which is on the roadmap and hopefully this chip can do. So I certainly look forward to that and updates on that from them. The UScan, I think, needs some serious rethinking about, all the 4 issues that we talked about: price, privacy, the replacement thing, and multiple users. So hopefully they take the feedback and rethink it and come back with something better. And now I want to hear from you. What do you think about these things? Are you excited about any of them? Would you like to have any of them? What do you think about the privacy issues? Let us know in the comments below. And with that, I hope you found it interesting, useful, entertaining, or whatever. Let us know in the comments below, and be well. We'll talk to you soon. Take good care. Bye-bye.